It was a crisp morning when the courtroom filled with anticipation. A high-profile case was underway, one that had captured the attention of the media and the public alike. Elon Musk, the billionaire CEO of Tesla and SpaceX, stood at the center of it all. The courtroom was buzzing with whispers, as people waited to see how this tech mogul would navigate the complex legal proceedings. The judge, a stern and experienced figure, was known for his no-nonsense attitude. He had a reputation for being tough on high-profile individuals, not allowing them to get away with anything simply because of their wealth or status. As Musk made his way to the stand, the judge wasted no time in establishing his dominance. "Mr. Musk," the judge began, his voice echoing in the courtroom, "we all know you like to play in the big leagues, but this isn't a Silicon Valley startup. You're in a court of law now, and here, we don't deal with grandstanding or tech-driven distractions. Do I make myself clear?" Musk, unfazed by the judge's attempt to intimidate him, nodded respectfully. But the tension in the air was palpable. The courtroom was divided, some admired Musk's relentless ambition, while others doubted his ability to handle the scrutiny that came with being in the spotlight. It was clear that this wouldn't be a simple trial. But no one expected what was about to unfold. As the trial progressed, the judge's sharp remarks continued. He seemed determined to get under Musk's skin. Musk had become a lightning rod for criticism, and this courtroom was no different. With each question the judge posed, there was a hint of mockery in his tone. "Mr. Musk," the judge said, leaning forward with a smirk. "You claim to be a genius, yet here you are, tangled in legal red tape. What exactly were you thinking when you sent that tweet about taking Tesla private? Is it your belief that you can simply bend the rules of the market like you bend the laws of physics?" The room fell silent as the judge's words echoed off the walls. Musk, who had been confident and calm up until that moment, allowed himself a brief, controlled smile. He wasn't going to let the judge rattle him. But the judge wasn't done. He pressed further, his voice dripping with sarcasm. "Oh, and let's not forget your grand plans for Mars. Do you really think a guy who can barely stay out of legal trouble can build a colony on another planet?" There was a collective gasp from the audience. The judge had crossed the line from questioning to outright mockery. Some in the courtroom were shaking their heads, sensing the tension rising. The bailiff shifted uncomfortably, and the lawyers exchanged uneasy glances. Musk's gaze remained steady. This was a test, and he wasn't about to lose it. But it was clear that the judge had underestimated him. The mocking tone of the judge continued, but Musk had begun to form a plan in his mind. He wasn't just going to sit there and take it, he would turn the tables, showing that he was not just a business mogul, but a man with an unshakable command over legal strategy. When the judge mocked Musk's plans for Mars, Musk's eyes narrowed, but there was no trace of anger. Instead, he leaned forward slightly, his voice calm but filled with purpose. "Your Honor," Musk began, addressing the judge with an almost serene confidence. "I may not be a lawyer, but I've learned the value of strategy and timing. You might be right about the challenges of the market and the hurdles I've faced in my career. But this courtroom, much like the markets, operates on a very clear set of rules, doesn't it? And just like I've navigated through the complexity of space exploration, I plan to do the same here." The judge's smirk faltered, but he quickly recovered, raising an eyebrow as if to dare Musk to continue. "Now, I understand you're not fond of my methods, Your Honor," Musk said with a slight pause, as the room grew still. "But unlike most people, I've built companies from the ground up by understanding the intricacies of both risk and reward. And I assure you, the law is no different. We both know that. It's just that while you may use precedent, I prefer to create it." Musk's statement hung in the air, the weight of his words slowly sinking into the minds of everyone present. The courtroom was dead silent. The judge, who had been in control of the room just moments before, now found himself on the defensive. His fingers drummed against the desk, a sign that he was processing Musk's unorthodox yet effective defense. But then Musk dropped the bombshell, the move that would stun everyone. "Your Honor, I'm sure you've heard of the case Smith versus Tesla. Musk continued smoothly, pulling out a document from his briefcase. It's a precedent that we could both use to avoid some of these more unnecessary legal entanglements. It's quite clear how the ruling could favor both of our interests. I'll gladly share the details with your team, if you're open to it. The judge's face turned a shade paler. Smith versus Tesla was a case that involved complex corporate regulations, a topic that had stumped many of the brightest legal minds. Musk had just referenced it with an ease that seemed to imply he had anticipated this moment all along. The tables had turned. The room could feel the shift, the judge's arrogance slowly began to melt away, replaced by a subtle unease. Musk wasn't just a genius in technology, he was proving he could master the law as well. The judge cleared his throat, clearly flustered, as the courtroom waited with bated breath. It wasn't often that someone challenged his authority so boldly, and certainly not someone like Elon Musk. For a brief moment, the judge seemed unsure of how to proceed. His usual demeanor of control had slipped, and now, he was the one on the back foot. "Mr. Musk," the judge finally said, his voice less certain than before. "I'm aware of Smith versus Tesla." He paused, seemingly trying to regain his composure. "But that's not exactly relevant to the matters at hand." Musk didn't miss a beat. "It's very relevant, Your Honor. In fact, it's precisely the kind of precedent that could help resolve this issue swiftly and without further delays. If you'd like, I can have my legal team provide you with a detailed memorandum outlining the case law and how it aligns with the current situation." The judge shifted uncomfortably in his seat, his expression revealing a mixture of irritation and grudging respect. He knew that Musk wasn't bluffing. Musk had been preparing for this moment, and now the judge realized just how much of a formidable adversary he was facing. The judge glanced over at the opposing counsel, as if seeking support, but they remained silent, watching the scene unfold. Musk's legal acumen had clearly caught everyone off guard. "You're suggesting that I allow Smith versus Tesla to influence the outcome of this case?" the judge asked, his voice tinged with skepticism but also tinged with curiosity. It was clear that Musk had gained his attention, but the judge was still hesitant to relinquish control of the proceedings. Musk gave a measured nod. "It's not just about influencing the case, Your Honor. It's about applying the law as it's meant to be applied, fairly and without bias. I'm confident that if we follow the correct legal path, this matter can be resolved in a way that benefits all parties involved." For the first time that day, the judge didn't immediately respond. The tension in the room was palpable. The audience, the lawyers, and even the bailiff were all waiting to see how the judge would handle this unexpected turn of events. The judge leaned back in his chair, looking at Musk as if for the first time truly seeing him as a worthy opponent, not just a tech billionaire. After a long pause, he finally spoke. "Very well, Mr. Musk," the judge said, his tone more measured. "We will take a short recess while I review the information you've provided. I expect your legal team to submit the relevant documents before we proceed." Musk gave a slight nod, never once showing any sign of triumph. He was calm, collected, and in control. The judge, on the other hand, had been caught off guard, his earlier mockery replaced by reluctant acknowledgement of Musk's legal savvy. The courtroom buzzed as people whispered among themselves, amazed by the unexpected turn of events. Musk had done what many thought impossible, he had taken the judge's mockery and turned it into an opportunity to demonstrate his legal mastery. The courtroom was buzzing with quiet conversations as the brief recess began. Musk sat still, his gaze steady, his mind already working ahead. His legal team was quick to spring into action, gathering the documents necessary to back up Musk's reference to Smith versus Tesla. The opposing counsel, too, seemed unsettled by the turn of events, clearly caught off guard by Musk's tactical maneuver. As the recess came to an end, everyone filed back into the courtroom. The judge entered, his usual stern expression now tempered with a hint of unease. He sat down and motioned for the proceedings to resume. "Mr. Musk," the judge began, after a pause, his voice less mocking and more thoughtful now. I've had the opportunity to review your submission and the case law you've provided. I'll admit, it's a compelling argument. However, the question remains, can the circumstances of your case truly be resolved by referencing a precedent that's so specific to Tesla's corporate structure? Musk, leaning slightly forward, answered with his characteristic calmness. Your Honor, the principles at play in Smith versus Tesla aren't limited to Tesla's internal structure. They go to the heart of fairness in legal processes, of holding powerful entities accountable, and ensuring that the law applies equally to all. I believe that's what we're all here for today. There was a slight murmur in the courtroom, a ripple of agreement from those who had been quietly following the case. The judge, for the first time, seemed to acknowledge that Musk wasn't just another tech mogul, he was a strategist who had mastered the art of persuasion and legal finesse. The judge's next words came with a surprising weight. I don't often find myself in situations where I must acknowledge that an outsider has more than proven their legal understanding. But today, I am forced to do so. He paused, glancing briefly at the opposing counsel, who looked like they had been struck silent by the turn of events. Mr. Musk, the judge continued, I am ruling in your favor. The court will proceed with the application of the principles you have outlined from Smith versus Tesla. The room was silent. No one expected the judge to concede so gracefully, especially after the scathing remarks he had made earlier. Musk's expression remained unchanged, but there was a sense of quiet satisfaction in the air. He had done it, he had turned the judge's mockery into a victory. As the judge concluded the session, Musk stood to leave. His legal team gathered around him, offering congratulatory nods and murmured praise. But Musk remained focused, already thinking about the next challenge ahead. The judge, still seated at the bench, watched him leave. There was no doubt in his mind now, Elon Musk wasn't just a business tycoon. He was a force to be reckoned with, in the courtroom and beyond. And with that, the case was closed. The courtroom slowly emptied, and outside, the media was already buzzing about the unexpected outcome. Elon Musk had proven that his intellect was not confined to technology, he had outsmarted a seasoned judge and turned the tide in his favor. It wasn't just a victory in the courtroom. It was a testament to Musk's ability to adapt, learn, and master any field he set his sights on, even when faced with mockery. The days following the courtroom showdown were filled with media frenzy. Headlines blared across every major news outlet, Judge silenced by Musk's legal mastery and Elon Musk defeats courtroom mockery with precision and wit. The story captivated the public, offering a rare glimpse into the sharp legal mind behind the tech mogul. In the weeks that followed, Elon Musk gave a few brief interviews, but he never directly addressed the courtroom drama. Instead, he focused on his companies, space exploration, and the future of artificial intelligence. His legal victory was not the headline he sought, his eyes were set on the stars, both figuratively and literally. However, behind the scenes, the victory had profound implications. Musk's legal team quietly began receiving a steady stream of high-profile inquiries. Law firms and corporate executives alike were eager to discuss potential collaborations with Musk, each hoping to tap into his newfound legal prowess. It wasn't just about business, people now realized that Musk was more than just a businessman, he was a strategist in every sense of the word. Meanwhile, the judge, though not publicly admitting it, had learned a valuable lesson. The legal world quickly took note of the dramatic shift. There were whispers about how Musk had outmaneuvered a seasoned judicial figure and whether other powerful figures might need to reconsider their own strategies in the courtroom. The legal community was abuzz, with debates raging over the ethical implications of Musk's tactics. Some saw it as a brilliant application of law and strategy, others viewed it as a form of legal gamesmanship that risked undermining the integrity of the court system. Regardless, the case had sparked conversations in law schools, boardrooms, and social media platforms. But in his typical fashion, Musk didn't dwell on the aftermath. His focus remained on his companies. SpaceX was preparing for another ambitious mission, Tesla was pushing the boundaries of electric vehicles, and Neuralink was edging closer to breakthroughs in human-machine interfaces. To Musk, the courtroom was just another challenge, one he had handled with the same precision and foresight he applied to his technological ventures. As for the judge, while his reputation wasn't tarnished, his approach to high-profile cases had been altered. In private circles, some speculated that he would be more cautious in future trials, especially when facing individuals like Musk, whose ability to think several steps ahead had proven itself. The courtroom mockery had turned into a moment of clarity, not just for Musk, but for everyone who had witnessed it. In the world of business and law, one thing was clear: never underestimate the power of strategy, no matter where it comes from. And so, Elon Musk moved forward, his victory in the courtroom just one of many steps toward achieving his lofty goals. The world would continue watching, waiting to see how he would redefine the future once again. Months after the courtroom victory, the effects of Musk's legal triumph continued to reverberate. It wasn't just the media or the legal community that had taken notice, even the business world had been irrevocably altered. Musk's calculated victory had sent shockwaves through corporate and political circles. No longer was Musk viewed solely as a genius entrepreneur, he had solidified his reputation as a sharp, fearless player in all arenas, including law. Across the globe, major CEOs and executives were beginning to rethink their approach to legal challenges. Musk had managed to turn a potentially damaging situation into a masterclass in legal strategy. It was a textbook case of how adaptability, foresight, and unorthodox thinking could tilt the balance in one's favor, even in the most adversarial settings. Soon, law firms and legal departments within major corporations began offering their services with new emphasis on strategic thinking. They no longer just defended clients, they strategized, predicted, and stayed one step ahead, just as Musk had done. It was clear, Musk had redefined what it meant to be a businessman. It wasn't just about the numbers, the products, or the public persona. It was about navigating the complex, ever-changing landscape of law and corporate power with the same precision as one would with technology. Some viewed it as a new age of legal maneuvering, one where intellect and strategy outmatched traditional legal precedent. Others were more wary. Would the courtroom become a battlefield where resources, not just legal knowledge, would determine the outcome? Musk, ever the innovator, continued to work tirelessly, undistracted by the fallout of his victory. He turned his attention to his next big goal, artificial intelligence and the integration of cutting-edge technologies into everyday life. But behind closed doors, the ripples from that courtroom had already altered the corporate world in ways no one had anticipated. On a more personal note, Musk became even more introspective. During private meetings with his close team, he spoke about the nature of power, how it was built, how it could be used, and how it could easily be undermined by those who were strategically adept. His words held weight now, as those who had once underestimated his brilliance began listening more intently. Meanwhile, the judge, though maintaining his position, couldn't escape the questions that continued to swirl around him. Legal scholars and analysts were quick to dissect his decisions during the trial. His previous arrogance was being cited as a cautionary tale in law schools across the country. His colleagues began re-evaluating the way they engaged with powerful individuals, especially those like Musk, who were proving that success in business could translate into dominance in the courtroom. Despite his initial reluctance to acknowledge it, the judge had learned a lesson: never underestimate the power of a well-prepared mind. As for Musk, he carried on, his reputation growing not just as a tech mogul but as a shrewd strategist capable of navigating the most complex of challenges. His victory in that courtroom was just a single chapter in the larger saga of his relentless pursuit of innovation and ambition. And though he had once been mocked, he had silenced his critics, not with flashy displays of wealth or power, but with the quiet, confident mastery of his own intellect. The world would continue to watch, and Musk, as always, would remain several steps ahead. Years passed, but the courtroom drama remained a pivotal moment in the ongoing story of Elon Musk. It had been more than just a victory, it had been a catalyst, a shift in how power was perceived and wielded. The media buzz had long since died down, but the lessons from that day lived on. Musk's legal prowess became legendary, not because of the specific case, but because it represented his ability to outthink and outmaneuver even the most experienced of adversaries. The business world came to understand that success was no longer about just building the next big product or dominating the market, it was about navigating the labyrinth of politics, law, and public perception with the same level of mastery that Musk applied to his companies. In boardrooms across the world, discussions about Musk's courtroom victory became part of strategic planning sessions. Executives began hiring not only the best legal minds but also those with the ability to think creatively, to anticipate potential legal battles, and to fight with precision. Musk had proven that understanding the law wasn't just for lawyers, it was for anyone with ambition, foresight, and a willingness to take risks. Meanwhile, Musk continued pushing the boundaries of technology, space exploration, and artificial intelligence. He had already achieved what many thought impossible, creating reusable rockets, revolutionizing electric vehicles, and turning the concept of a Mars colony into a tangible goal. But the courtroom victory had opened his eyes to the true scope of his potential, his ability to influence, not just through technology but through thought and strategy. Over time, the world began to see him as more than just a businessman or inventor. He was a symbol of the modern age, a figure who had transcended traditional boundaries and was reshaping the world in his image. His courtroom encounter had become a defining moment in his legacy, a testament to his unrelenting will, intellectual prowess, and his mastery over both technology and law. Even the judge, who had once been so dismissive, found his place in history, not as a figure of mockery, but as a pivotal part of the story that illustrated how even the most established figures in power could be humbled by the force of intellect. As Musk's ventures continued to expand, so did his influence. And in every step, whether in the corporate world, in courtrooms, or in the public eye, the lesson remained: never underestimate the quiet genius who can see the game for what it truly is. The world had learned that with enough strategy, determination, and intellect, even the impossible could be achieved. Elon Musk had proven that once again, and his legacy would carry on long after the courtroom doors had closed.